Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Rofiq Pramanik with top stories. Abe's Pearl Harbor visit shows power of reconciliation, said Obama. Trump and Putin square off over nukes. US calls ludicrous Turkish claims coalition supported terrorists in Syria. Senator McCain reassures Baltic nations of US support. 60 dead, dozens injured in Indian train crash. Those are the headlines, now the detail. US President Barack Obama says Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's visit to the site of the 1941 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor showed the power of reconciliation and choosing peace over war. US President Barack Obama said on Tuesday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's visit to the site of the 1941 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor showed the power of reconciliation. This historic gesture speaks to the power of reconciliation, a reminder that even the deepest wounds of war can give way to friendship and a lasting peace, Obama said in a ceremony standing next to Abe. Abe offered his condolence on Tuesday to the people who were killed in the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. After visiting the memorial to the sunken battleship USS Arizona, President-elect Donald Trump tells MSNBC that he has no problem with a new arms race after he and Russian President Vladimir Putin traded verbs over nuclear policy.
Let it be an arms race. President-elect Donald Trump mincing no words with MSNBC Friday in what could be his first standoff with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the most high-stakes topic of them all, nuclear arms. It started with Trump's tweet Thursday calling for greatly expanding and strengthening America's nuclear arsenal. That coming hours after Putin said his country needs to strengthen the military potential of strategic nuclear forces. In the off-camera phone call with MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski, Trump, without referring directly to Russia, said the U.S. will outmatch them at every pass and outlast them all. Andy Sullivan is following the story.
What Trump's proposing here would reverse decades of U.S. policy under Republican and Democratic administrations, where the United States has been trying to decrease the number of weapons it has, not increase them.
Putin in his yearly news conference Friday played down talk of any Cold War-like nuclear stalemate with the U.S., stressing he does not consider the U.S. a threat, but also saying the Russian military is stronger than any potential aggressor. Later Friday, Trump's transition team releasing a letter they say Putin sent Trump on December 15th expressing a desire to work together, with a statement from Trump saying he hopes both sides are, quote, able to live up to these thoughts and do not have to travel an alternate path.
Trump's aides are scrambling to diffuse the damage here. His newly minted communications director, Jason Miller, saying that he wasn't talking about taking on Russia or China. He's really talking about going after terrorists. I think this is a dynamic we're going to be seeing in the months ahead. Trump says something provocative. His aides scramble to put it in context. Markets bounce around. People around the world are freaked out.
While Putin did also praise Trump's understanding of the American electorate Friday, it's still a much different tone between the two leaders than during the campaign, when Democrats often attacked Trump for being too close to Putin, and allegations swirled that Putin-backed hackers purposely leaked information damaging to Democratic nominee Hillary.
The U.S. State Department rejected as ludicrous accusation by Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan that US-led coalition forces supported terrorist groups in Syria. The US State Department on Tuesday rejected as ludicrous accusation by Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan that US-led coalition forces supported terrorist groups in Syria, including Islamic State and Kurdish militant groups YPG and PYD. State Department spokesman Mark Toner, there was no basis for such an accusation. Earlier in the day, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan had said he has evidence that US-led coalition forces give support to terrorist groups including the Islamic State and Kurdish militant groups YPG and PYD. Senior Republican Senator John McCain arrives in Estonia to reassure Baltic state concerned that US President-elect Donald Trump may not be fully committed to their defense. Senior Republican Senator John McCain arrived in Estonia on Tuesday on a visit seen as a bid to reassure Baltic states concerned that US President-elect Donald Trump may not be fully committed to their defense. Trump unnerved many in Estonia, Lithuania and Latvia by saying on the campaign trail he would consider a country's contributions to the NATO alliance before coming to its aid. At least 60 passengers are dead and more than 40 injured after 15 carriages of an Indian Express train derailed near northern Kanpur city on Wednesday. The derailment is the latest such accident in recent weeks that has raised concerns about the safety of the aging rail network. The train derailed near Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh state early in the morning. According to the Railway Ministry, the Sealdah-Ajmer Express train, which was travelling to Ajmer, got derailed. It looks like a lot of damage has been caused. So far, 28 people have been injured and they are in the hospital, while 60 persons are dead, said Kanpur Inspector General Zaki Ahmed. Following the derailment, several trains have been diverted. The Indian Railways has also issued helpline numbers in the wake of the incident. The first trial related to Turkey's failed coup starts with 29 police officers facing charges of disobeying orders on the night of July 15. Heavy security at a Turkish prison as 29 police officers go before court Tuesday. Accused of being part of a failed coup in July, it's the first trial of its kind in Istanbul since the boast attempt to overthrow the government. State media says the men are accused of disobeying orders and refusing to protect the presidential palace. Some 240 people died that night. This lawyer for some of the victims says the guilty must be sentenced to the heaviest punishment. This is a betrayal against the country, he says. Prosecutors are reportedly seeking a life sentence for 21 of the officers. Viewers, will take a short break. Stay with us. We are back in a moment with the headlines here. Russia continues search at planned crash site. Shares plummet after Toshiba flags massive nuclear loss. Prime Minister seeks Northern investment in special economic zones. BNP Defence District Council polls boycott. European Union provides over 24 crore for Rohingya Muslims in Bangladesh. Russia continues search operations at the site where a Tu-154 military plane with 92 people on board crashed into the Black Sea. Russian Emergencies Ministry staff continued their search on Tuesday for bodies of passengers. Parts of the military Tu-154 plane which crashed into the Black Sea of the Sochi coast with 92 people on board. Rescue teams have already recovered several parts of the plane, including a large piece of fuselage with cabin windows as well as one flight recorder which has already been delivered to Moscow. It contains information that could help investigators to identify the cause of the crash, which killed dozens of Red Army choir singers and dancers en route to Syria to entertain Russian troops in the run-up to the new year. Toshiba shares dived 20% a day after the company flagged a major loss on US nuclear business acquisition, rekindling concerns about its accounting practices. A dramatic tumble for Toshiba's stock price on Wednesday, shares plummeting 20% at the open a day after the Japanese tech giant flagged a financial hit of several $billion, the result of costs from US nuclear projects the company bought up a year ago, coming in far higher than expected. Executives say they could result in a massive write-down. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on Wednesday sought Narayan investment in Bangladesh's various sectors, particularly the special economic zones. The Prime Minister came up with the request when newly appointed Narayan ambassador to Bangladesh, Shirshal Blaken, made a courtesy call on her at her office. After the meeting, Prime Minister's press secretary Ehsanul Karim briefed reporters. Referring to government steps to establish special economic zones in the country, Sheikh Hasina said the initiative has been taken for both domestic and foreign investors. Bangladesh can export more goods and products like fish, leather goods, pharmaceuticals and other products from there, she added. Bangladesh National Party Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir on Wednesday said their party did not join the district council polls as it was contradictory to the constitution. There is a direction in the constitution for holding the local body polls with direct balloting, but the current district council election is indirect one, he said. The BNP leader further said, "We think the indirect district council election is contradictory to our constitution and also not suitable for democracy. That's why we have boycotted it." The European Commission is allocating €3 lakh equivalent to 24 crore 9,41,382 in humanitarian aid funding to provide emergency humanitarian assistance to the Rohingya refugees who have recently fled Myanmar and entered Bangladesh. The aid will directly benefit 7,500 newly arrived refugees in the coastal district of Cox's Bazar. Most of the Rohingya families who have recently crossed the Naf River have arrived with nothing and are therefore in critical need of humanitarian assistance. Roman Mescher, head of the European Commission's Humanitarian Aid Department office in Bangladesh, was quoted as saying in a statement, "A massive fire spreads through a shanty town in the Philippines capital, destroying homes and leaving more than 1,000 families homeless."
Ang panawagan ko po, sana yung mga kapitbahay ko at kami, sana kahit mabigyan kami ng konting tulong, pangailangan po namin sa pang-araw-araw lang po. Yun lang po ang iniano ko.
Viewers, we'll take a short break. Stay with us. We're back in a moment. Now the news on environment, science and technology. Bumblebees and butterflies have seen their numbers plummet after another year of unsettled weather, according to a National Trust study. The 10th annual wildlife report from the trust said mild winters and bad weather in summer created bad conditions for small plants. But whilst insects suffered, grass growth rose, meaning a good year for livestock farmers. Conservationists and farmers must work together, the trust said. Warmer winter month and bad summer have become the norm. According to the report, which said the UK has not had a good summer since 2006. Nature and wildlife specialist for the trust, Matthew Worth, said 2016 comes on top of an unsettled decade, with many species struggling in the face of climate change and more intensive farming practices. For a change, Kevin Sanders has decided to let someone, or more accurately something else, count the apples in his orchard. This is not the first time his idyllic farm down in Australia's Yarra Valley has played host to robots and their handlers. So Sanders knows what to expect. Moving soundlessly down the corridors between trees, an electric robot will scan each plant, identifying individual fruit and flowers. An algorithm is then used to classify and count the apples in each image and provide a yield estimation, a critical figure for farmers that will inform Sanders' plan to manage his orchard and the harvest. A fourth-generation farmer, Sanders and his brothers have an interest in innovation that has created an unconventional operation. Researchers at Johns Hopkins Department of Biology have discovered that a protein called nerve growth factor found in the nervous system also triggers the release of insulin in the pancreas. This might have led researchers to a new discovery that could one day lead to early treatment of type 2 diabetes. Johns Hopkins biologists found that a protein that helps neurons grow, called nerve growth factor or NGF for short, has a second job. It triggers the release of insulin in the pancreas. Associate Professor of Biology Reggie Kuruvilla explains how glucose is sensed by the beta cells to remodel the skeleton barrier was not known. And what we found was the NGF receptor is involved is the link between glucose and remodeling of the cytoskeleton barrier to secrete insulin. Sports scientists from London say they have proved that running during the cooler winter months puts less strain on the body and can help athletes boost their performance. Matthew Stock has more. As temperatures drop during their winter months, so too can be the motivation to go for a run. But new research suggests it's actually the perfect time of year to maximize your performance. Sports scientists in London have demonstrated how running in the cold causes significantly less stress on the body. Inside an environmentally controlled chamber, they replicated British summertime temperature of 22 degrees Celsius and the 8 degrees Celsius of winter. Test subjects ran 10 kilometers over 40 minutes in both warm and cold conditions. Heart rate was monitored throughout and blood lactate levels measured during short pauses. Viewers, now the news on business. US stocks rose slightly, supported by upbeat consumer and housing data, with gains in technology shares lifting the Nasdaq Composite to a record close, another near miss for Dow 20,000. But the Nasdaq hit a new record high. Stocks supported in part by upbeat housing and consumer data in one of the lowest volume sessions of the year. The Dow has been rallying since the election, raising questions about valuation, but Barclays Michelle Gapen says expected economic changes, including tax reform, justify the benchmark level. Iran says it negotiated to pay only about half of the announced price for 80 new Boeing airlines in an order that the American plane maker had said was worth $16 billion. President-elect Donald Trump is not the only one bragging about getting better prices on airplanes. The Iranian government says it is getting 8 new Boeing planes half price. That's half of more than $16 billion Boeing had been asking for. As a result of President Obama lifting international sanctions on Iran, Boeing and its European rival Airbus have both signed huge contracts to supply planes to the country. Panasonic will invest more than $256 million in a Tesla factory in New York to make photovoltaic cells and modules. Tesla and Panasonic are taking their partnership to the next level. Panasonic is investing $256 million in a Tesla's factory in Buffalo, New York to start production of solar cells and panels in the summer of 2017. In return, Tesla is making a long-term purchase commitment besides providing factory buildings and infrastructures. Tesla said it will use Panasonic cells and modules for its energy storage products, Poweroil and Powerpack. In a joint statement on Tuesday, the two companies said the plan to speed up to the 1 gigawatt of module production by 2019. Viewers, now the news on entertainment. Carrie Fisher, who rose to fame as Princess Leia in the Star Wars films and later endured drug addiction and stormy romances, has died aged 60 following a recent cardiac episode. Carrie Fisher, internationally known for her role as Princess Leia, has died, according to her family's publicist. The Star Wars star suffered a cardiac episode on a flight from London to Los Angeles on Friday. She was rushed to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center in critical condition with her mother, actress Debbie Reynolds, later saying she was stable. After her Star Wars role, Fisher endured drug addiction and stormy romances with show business heavyweights. She again made headlines in November, saying she carried on a 3-month love affair in 1976 with her Star Wars romantic lead Harrison Ford. The woman, forever known as Princess Leia, died at 60 years of age. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, rose to the top of the holiday weekend box office, soaring over the animated animal feature, seeing the latest installment in the Star Wars saga soar to the top of the holiday weekend box office, according to the online magazine Deadline.com. Rogue One, a Star Wars story, took in $70 million, bringing its total for its past-time days to more than $2,060 million. That puts the Disney Lucasfilm flick on track to become one of the highest-grossing films of the year, according to Deadline. The animated musical about an animal talent show owns second place, earning about $33 million. George Mitchell's death comes at the end of a year that has seen the passing of several music superstars.
Guess it's tough. I guess I'm older. But everything must change. And all this cruelty and money instead of love.
He was a songbook to the good times, the bad times, and he's brought me here today just to say thank you, George, for the music.
People have we no shame. They may chase me to the ends of the earth. I've got you, babe.
Viewers, now the news on sports. Global football federations are overwhelming in favor of plans for a 48-team World Cup. FIFA President Gianni Infantino says the head of football's governing body outlined his vision for an expanded tournament comprising 16 groups of 3 teams earlier this month. The top 2 teams in each group would progress to the knockout rounds. A decision will be made in January, but any change to the 32-team format is unlikely to come in before 2026. FIFA's council will discuss the proposal at a meeting on 9 January, but Infantino, 46, made expansion part of his election manifesto. We have to be more inclusive, he said at a sports conference in Dubai. Eyeing to stay alive in the 3-match ODI series, Mushfiqur Rahim-led Bangladesh will face host New Zealand in the second match at Sexton Oval in Nelson on Thursday. The match will begin at 4 a.m. according to the Bangladesh time. Mushfiqur Rahim will miss the game due to a hamstring injury he suffered during the first match at Christchurch on Monday. He retired hurt after scoring 42. Nurul Hassan will make his ODI debut as a keeper to carry out duties behind the stumps, replacing wicket-keeper batsman Mushfiqur. He will become the 5th wicket-keeper to feature in ODIs for Bangladesh after Mushfiqur Rahim in 2006. Dhiman Ghosh, Johurul Islam, Anamul Haq and Liton Das all came in as replacement when Mushfiqur got injured in different times. Kingston upon Hull United Kingdom, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola believes that every game in the second half of the season will be like a cup final for his title hopefuls. An impressive and hard-earned 3-0 win at Hull kept pace with leaders Chelsea after Antonio Conte's side beat Bournemouth earlier on Monday. The Blues had opened up a 10-point gap over Guardiola's team for home defeat at Hull would have spelled disaster. The Catalan admitted that the pressure was on following that result, although a Yaya Toure penalty, a tap-in from Subtitle. The Catalan admitted that the pressure was on following that result, although a Yaya Toure penalty, a tap-in from substitute Kelechi Iheanacho and an own goal from Curtis Davies ensured he eventually enjoyed his first Boxing Day in English football with a comfortable win. Viewers, let's have a look Millennium TV News recap. Abe's Pearl Harbor visit shows power of reconciliation, said Obama. Trump and Putin square off over nukes. US calls ludicrous Turkish claims coalition supported terrorists in Syria. Senator McCain reassures Baltic nations of US support. 60 dead, dozens injured in Indian train crash. Viewers, to get any kinds of news, log in our social media, facebook.com/MillenniumTVUSA and youtube.com/MillenniumTVUSA. You are up to date with our top stories so far here on Millennium TV, and don't forget to log in our website www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you and stay with Millennium TV. Allah Hafiz.